Hey traders, welcome back for another daily market recap. Today is Friday, October 16th. It's Rod with Pow Group, and thanks again for joining us on the pursuit of wealth. In today's video, we're going to discuss whether or not Boeing is a good buy, in my opinion. We did have some news about the 737 MAX being deemed safe to fly again, which we'll touch on in just a second. And we'll just briefly go over some news and events, some indices, some individual stock analysis, and a summary of where I think the market is going to end the week and go into next week. So before we jump into the content, make sure to smash the like. I'd appreciate that. Shows me support, and consider subscribing to the channel. So first on the list, we did have a stimulus update. So Pelosi flags poison pills in stimulus talks, basically saying that, they're starting to see progress, but there's still some areas where it's basically just ludicrous and many disagreements remain, and also cited multiple so-called poison pills, including their radical liability provision, which forces workers to risk their lives in unsafe workplaces with no legal recourse. So basically still a lot of divide there, and we did see that Mnuchin is supposed to be going to the Middle East, so it's probably a good chance that we won't see any updates until a week or two, but chances of this passing before the election are starting to diminish even more. So we did see some economic data today as well. We saw retail sales posted a bigger gain than expected. So consumers showing some strength there, consumer spending. But then shortly after that, we saw that manufacturing data and the output in the US unexpectedly declined. So we saw some positive news and then some negative news. And then right around the same time that the manufacturing news came out, we saw that the Pelosi and stimulus deal update came out and basically added fuel to the fire. And we saw a significant pullback on the major indices. So taking a look next on the list, we had Boeing 737 MAX. So we had a Europe aviation regulator that basically deemed it safe to fly again. So they implemented a software upgrade, and that's basically what they called for and gave them the green light to go ahead with flight resume on the 737 MAX. So because of the accident that left 346 people dead, it was obviously a huge concern, and apparently those concerns have been subsided and taken care of because of the new software upgrade. We also saw that Air Canada CEO Callan Rovinsky to retire in February. So absolutely, I'll have to do another video on Air Canada because I've absolutely been getting a lot of inquiries about Air Canada, whether or not this is a good long-term investment. Personally, it kind of falls under the same realm as Boeing, but I still think there's a lot of ground to be made up on these names, and these recovery stocks are going to be a high-risk option going forward, at least until we have this sickness behind us and we figure out where to go from here. Because even if everything does magically just go away tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of people that are still reluctant to travel. There's going to be a huge demand in travel, though, once everything does open up. So I could potentially see in a few months or in a few quarters, maybe we see some, after the sickness starts to subside, maybe we start to see some huge earning reports and just some travel frenzy that everybody's been cooped up. So we'll keep an eye. Maybe I'll do another video on Air Canada, but personally, I think waiting is the best option right now. And the news on Boeing certainly helps, but still a long way to go, in my opinion. I'm holding off on any long entries at the moment. I did have a lot of people asking me about Air Canada in the 16s and the $18 range, and certainly they were happy that they waited out because we saw a lot more downside from there. And last on the list, we saw China's ambassador escalates war of words with Ottawa, warning of possible forceful measures. So could be seeing some more tensions heating up with China in relation to Canada or the US. And we saw that the Huawei extradition case has been progressing slowly but surely, and it's just another another cloud basically hanging over investors and concerns that could potentially mount into the future. So before we jump into the BA stock analysis, I do want to jump over the indices really quickly. So today, SPY, we saw the daily bounce continuation, and we could be setting the daily higher low now. So to be confident that that has been set, we'll look for an hourly trend change. So we didn't change the hourly trend. We can see that we have had a higher low every single candle with no real pullback. We did have a pullback here. I consider this significant enough. Could potentially be a bull flag, but this low of 348.37 needs to hold. If we can break resistance, short-term resistance of 350.74, then that would confirm a hourly uptrend, and that would give bulls confidence that the daily higher low has been set. And you can see we had a perfect bounce off EMA 12 on SPY. That's pretty much all I had for you guys right now on SPY. Everything is basically just at a standstill until we can get more stimulus. If we get more stimulus, QQQ not as strong as the day as SPY. You can see we're only up about 0.3%, SPY up about double, and still about an hour and 40 minutes left to go in the trading day. But again, I'm traveling at the moment, so next week on Monday, I'll be back in my regular setup, and we'll be able to do a little bit more in-depth analysis for you guys on these names. And you can see QQQ in the same position, never changed the hourly trend. So we are still at risk of a daily higher low not being set yet. So just look to the most important short-term resistance of 293.24. A break of that would confirm the hourly trend change to the bulls and a daily higher low. And just taking a quick peek at QQQ on the weekly. So if we close over 278, that's 1 point in favor of the bulls. The MACD has yet to cross bullish, but if we could cross that into the end of the day and close above the 10-week moving average, that'd be extremely bullish. And the stochastic is already crossed, so that's another point in favor of the bulls, but lagging there on the MACD. Same with SPY, trying to curl here now though. Close over 338 would be extremely bullish. And taking a quick peek at SPY on the daily, 338 is also the 50-day moving average, so extremely bullish if we can maintain that level. And QQQ 279 is the 50-day moving average. So we'll keep an eye on this, but essentially we're just looking for weekly lower highs on these bounces. We didn't form a weekly higher low and higher high on this way up. It's just straight off the low here. So if we top out here, we'll look to basically just set a weekly lower high as the most probable scenario. And taking a look at SPY as well, didn't come as close to, it was about $4 off, and QQQ is only about, I think $2 off, 303, high of 297. So came about from the all-time high, QQQ came about 2%, and SPY had less than 2%. So SPY came closer to its all-time high than QQQ did. So just keep that in mind, that if we do set the weekly lower high here, we did see SPY a little bit more strength than QQQ relatively. And like I said, just look for a loss of the daily uptrend. That will give us our first indication that the weekly lower high has been set. That's the most important for me going into the weekend. Oil started to pull back to begin the day, but nice lower wick there on the daily chart. So still maintaining this uptrend. We almost set a daily lower high and lower low, which would have confirmed a daily downtrend, but bulls save that. So most important support right now for me is 39.07 on oil. DXY trying to get a bounce going, higher low every single day. On the daily, bulls got lots of room to form a daily higher low and higher high. And I would potentially be also on the lookout for an inverse head and shoulders. I think I mentioned that yesterday in my daily video, but we could potentially pull back here to the 93.30s or 93.40, set a right shoulder of the IHS and look to potentially confirm a break to the upside. And weekly, just looking for a weekly higher low. Most important support right now for me, if we can hold this basis support around the 92.75 level, that will give us confidence to enter on any bullish positions. But Essentially, I'd be looking up here to about 95, 96 as a potential target for any bounce on the US dollar, because as you can see on the monthly, anything below the 96 range is still considered a monthly bear flag. So I would like to see the bounce continuation on the weekly and the daily, and look to potentially top out. The 382 Fibonacci would be around the 96 level as well. So that's the target that I would have on the dollar short term. But if we get stimulus, that's obviously going to have a huge impact on the dollar going forward. And gold today, we saw a break to begin the day in the morning. And again, just respecting this descending triangle pattern formation, and we rejected right at the resistance as well. So next week, we'll look to about the 1920 level. Week after that, 1910. Week after that, around the 1900 level. Like I said, this could go sideways for another 3 to 4 to 5 weeks, maybe even potentially 2 months, but I would expect sometime in the next month or two to see a break of this pattern. And generally, these patterns tend to break to the downside, and that would line up fairly well with our last weekly high or low down here at 1670. That's pretty much all I had for you guys in terms of indices. So let's dive into BA. As I know, that is the title of the video, and we probably have a lot of people curious about whether or not they should take profits. Maybe you're looking for a bearish position. Maybe you're looking to enter bullish and to go long the stock. Maybe you think it's a good long-term investment. Again, I still think it's a little premature, given the fact that we have a second wave upon us. We don't really know the extent of how bad it's going to be. The flu season is coming. There's just a lot of uncertainties right now. We have the presidential election coming. If Biden were to win, we could potentially see a huge tax introduction for corporate taxes as high as 20–30%. And basically, the theme play right now for me is the cannabis space. So I'm not really eyeing the recovery stocks or the airline industry, as I think that there's still a lot of ground to catch up on. And we saw that Warren Buffett also sold quite a bit of stake as well in his airline positions. So he may have been wrong in the short term, but generally he tends to be right in the long term. So I think there's going to be a lot more clarity in the next few weeks ahead. But you can see on the monthly, we are declining in sell volume. So we could potentially be forming a bottom here. We also do have a bit of an uptrend here to be watching. So I'd be watching this uptrend here from the lows back in March. And we could just potentially be looking at this horizontal line of resistance, or sorry, this downward sloping line of resistance, which basically forms a pennant. So we'll look to see which way we break. That'll give us our indication of which way this is going to break into the next few weeks. But as I said, we did form a monthly higher low and higher high. So most important resistance on the monthly is 234.20. Most important support for me is 113.89. And you can see that we do have a monthly inside bar. So that would be the most important long-term support and resistance. Most important short-term resistance, in my opinion, is support 145.02, and the resistance would be 180.85. So like I said, monthly inside bar on watch. Whatever way that breaks will break out of this pennant and give us more clarity on what to expect going into the next few weeks. But we still are in a monthly uptrend and looking to form a monthly higher low here at 145.02. To be confident that that monthly higher low has been set, we'll look to see a trend change in the weekly time frame and break to a higher high. That will give us confidence that the monthly higher low is set. But you can see on the weekly we had a lower high and a lower low, so we are in a weekly downtrend looking to form a weekly higher low. Bull's got a little bit of space here, not a whole lot, looking at about 15%. So definitely plenty of space to form a weekly higher low and see continuation. So on the daily, rejected right at that resistance line, and we did have a low, high, higher low, basically fake out here of this equilibrium. So we are basically going sideways, low, high, higher, low, essentially a double bottom, lower high, and we'll see if we tighten up into the rest of the day and into next week. Taking a look at some of the shorter term time frames. So we are in an hourly uptrend on BA. So now we're just looking to form another hourly higher low. We do have a gap in the chart though, down at the 164 level. So be mindful of that. But obviously on the news that it was cleared by the European regulators to resume flights, that was very, very bullish for the stock. And we saw a huge gap up. Looking at about 7% gap up, give or take. And just zooming into the shorter term time frames, basically looking to set a 5-minute uptrend. So we did have a low, high, higher low, higher high. So we are in a 5-minute uptrend. We could potentially be setting another 5-minute higher low. So just watch the 5-minute trend into the end of the day. We'd like to see that remain the case into the end of the day, and we'd like to change the 15-minute trend. Zoom out after we change the 15-minute trend, we'll zoom out to the hourly and so on, and look to potentially make our way up towards resistance. Personally, I think we are more apt to fill that gap and consolidate a bit more, especially if the market tends to sell off into the end of the day. It's Friday, the end of the week. We'll see if we have some profit taking after a fairly huge week in the broader markets. We also have EMA 12 support here around the 167 level. Get the exact one. So it is 167.82. So again, I'd just be looking at if you're looking for an entry, I'd potentially wait for a weekly higher low and a trend change to go long the stock, and a break of this pennant for sure would be a must for me. And taking a look at BA on the longer term time frame on the weekly, you can see that we have the 10-week moving average at 167.40. We're currently at 168.76. MACD and the stochastic are crossing bullish. So if we can close over that 167.40 level, that'll be extremely bullish for the BA bulls. And taking a look at the daily chart, we topped out at the 100-day moving average. We are holding the 50, so it'll look to form a base of support. We did have a bear cross of the 50 and the 100-day, not a golden cross though, but like I said, we'll look to form a base of support there on the 50-day moving average, see if we can hold that into the end of the day. But those would be the most important levels for me on BA. Hopefully you guys found that information valuable and gives you a little bit more of an idea on how to manage your position or take a position. If you need anything clarified, just let me know in the comments below. I can do my best to clarify anything that you would like clarified. And just to wrap things up, in summary, like I said, Mnuchin said he's going to be going to the Middle East. So chances of them resuming, him and Pelosi resuming talks in the next week are fairly slim. So just keep that in mind. And in my honest opinion and humble opinion, I don't think that they're going to pass a stimulus bill before the election. Why? Because if they pass it now and we're in a second wave, what's going to happen when we hit the peak of that wave? So why would they pass a bill now and have to pass one in a month or two? I think they're just, right from the get-go, I said that this was just smoke and mirrors. Check out a couple of my videos from before. There was a Steve Mnuchin video that I did, a thumbnail, basically saying we promised stimulus is coming, and that was weeks ago. And we've just been bouncing around the same rhetoric, which has been talks are back on, talks are off. And then Trump comes out and tweets, we're not going to have any until after the election. And then the very next day, he offers a 1.8 trillion proposal and says he's all about backing it, just not through the traditional forms of Congress. And it's just absolutely ludicrous. In my opinion, it's just them manipulating the market, helping the market stay afloat, and just give people a reason to hold on into the election and make themselves look even better going into the election. So certainly from a political standpoint, probably a smart move, in my opinion. I'm not a political person. I don't want to get political, but I'd like to see Biden win. And like I said, my theme play going into the next few weeks is going to be the cannabis space and just holding off on recovery stocks. So again, it's Rod with POW Group. Thanks for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.